Okay, everybody. Hello. Now, I am very pleased to be joined by four great members of our leadership team, Senators Durbin, Murray, and Stabenow. Now,
2, 3.
including myself. Math.
It's just math.
School teacher, always. Charles gets a D in arithmetic. Okay. They called me Charles in school. One of the many burdens I carry. Anyway, we all know President Trump will say tonight that the state of our union is strong, but the American people know the truth. On the economy, health care, governance, foreign policy, it's abundantly clear that the Trump administration has been failing the middle class in this country. What is the state of the Trump economy? Failing the middle class. What is the state of the Trump health care system? Failing American families. What is the state of the Trump administration? Chaos. And what is the state of Trump foreign policy? Inside out and backward. On the economy, wealthy shareholders, corporate executives cashed in from the Trump GOP tax law. American workers are left holding the bag. On health care, think of this. After years of steady decline, the number of Americans without health insurance is going back up under President Trump. The state of the Trump administration is chaos. We've had more cabinet turnover than in 100 years. Even Republicans are worried about that. There was an article in the Washington Post, I believe it was today, that of the 705 top appointed jobs the president has, he hasn't even nominated people to 150. And finally, foreign policy. We seem to chastise, criticize, and even humiliate our allies and embrace our enemies, such as Russia, China, and North Korea. So President Trump, he can say what he wants about the State of the Union, but the American people know all of its problems. And these are not the only challenges we face, but the state of our union is in need of drastic repair. For the last 2 years, the White House previewed addresses to Congress, and each time they emphasized unity, bipartisanship, reaching across the aisle, and the next morning, President Trump forgot all of that. We hope it won't happen again. Every year, the president wakes up and discovers that the desire for bipartisanship and unity is ephemeral. He doesn't really feel it. He's told he's supposed to say it at the State of the Union, and then it's gone. So if President Trump calls for a new era of bipartisanship, forgive me. We're going to wait to see if he's serious this time. Because if past States of the Union are prologue, the desire for unity will evaporate as soon as the headlines have gone to print. As for his big ideas, President Trump's first 2 years have been a lot of talk and not very much action. In every address to Congress, President Trump makes lofty promises and then drops them. He's failed to deliver on prescription drugs, infrastructure, paid family leave, North Korea, immigration, manufacturing. And what about that $4,000 raise every family was going to get because of the tax cuts? So when President Trump tonight makes bold, popular promises, I'm not buying it, and the American people won't either. Senator Durbin.
Thanks, Chuck. Let me preface my remarks before I address the State of the Union and tell you what a warm feeling I have since I've learned of an announcement that was made at this podium just a few moments ago. It turns out that as a conferee on this conference committee, I have joined the University of Louisville in Mitch McConnell's nightly prayers. So I want to thank him for his encouragement and for standing by us and lifting this burden from my shoulder. That was a joke. What is the State of the Union under President Trump? The protection of health insurance is at risk because of a lawsuit filed by this president and Republican attorneys general. The basic services of our government are at risk because of President Trump's 35-day shutdown and threat to do it again next week. Our national security is at risk because of threats to NATO, a return to an arms race, and a phony caravan crisis on the southern border, all brought on by this president. Our planet is at risk because this president and his party have broken with every nation on earth in their opposition to responsibly addressing climate change. America's confidence in our government is at risk because we've been shaken by a president and his cabinet riddled with corruption and conflicts of interest. When this president says his administration is unlike anything in the history of this country, there is no argument he's right.
Senator Murray, one of four very good leaders standing here.
President Trump spent a lot of time on the campaign trail making promises about what health care would look like if he was elected. He insisted that he would repeal Obamacare on day one and gut women's access to health care providers that they trust. He assured families that under Trump care they would get better, cheaper health care, and he insisted he would dramatically lower the costs of prescription drugs. 2 years later, thanks to the incredible courage and advocacy of patients of all ages, all parts of the country, and all backgrounds, President Trump was not able to take away tens of millions of families' health care, rip protections away from hundreds of millions of people with pre-existing condition, and throw health care in our country into complete chaos. And women and men have stood strong and made clear Planned Parenthood is not going anywhere. But the tragic reality is that, without a doubt, as a result of President Trump and Republicans, health care in our country is now headed in the wrong direction fast. Just last month, new data showed the uninsured rate is at a 4-year high. Late last year, we learned that for the first time in a decade, the number of uninsured children in the U.S. has grown. Too many families' costs continue to go up, especially for prescription drugs that so many people rely on. And people with pre-existing conditions, young adults nearing the age of 26, women who've benefited from having their birth control covered are wondering what the Republican lawsuit in Texas, which could take away all those protections, will mean for their health care and their bank accounts in the future. Unfortunately, for so many people across the country, the state of health care under President Trump is higher costs, lost coverage, and worry about what else is around the corner. This is deeply harmful, it is unacceptable, and it is why Democrats are going to continue to hold President Trump accountable for the damage he's doing and asking any Republican who truly cares about lowering families' health care costs and improving quality of care to work with us, because there are steps we could take right now to stop rolling back some of the ways President Trump's policies have hurt our families, steps that would take us towards ensuring every family got affordable coverage and the peace of mind that comes with that. That's why we are working together, and while I unfortunately do not expect President Trump's remarks tonight to move us in that direction, we're not going to stop trying.
Senator Stabenow,
Thank you.
the fifth member of our leadership team.
That's right. Tonight, President Trump is going to tell us that thanks to him, the State of the Union has never been stronger. He may say it's the best in the history of the world. However, if you want to know the real state of the economy, you should come to Michigan and talk to working men and women in Michigan or working men and women across the country. They're working harder than ever before and still not getting ahead. The cost of everything keeps going up while their paychecks are not keeping up. Thanks to President Trump's huge tax giveaway, corporate shareholders keep getting richer while too many workers don't make a decent wage. If we want a stronger American economy, then we need to invest in our workers. One example of many ways that working people are now being hurt because of the tax bill. While Republicans refuse to close the tax loopholes that allow companies to ship jobs overseas, in other words, we as taxpayers pay for that move, the Republicans did take away the deduction for working men and women if they need to move across the country in order to be able to find a new job. Republicans also stopped the deduction for workers to deduct their tools and their equipment as a business expense, but not other business expenses. So if you're an electrician, if you're a plumber, if you're another working professional, you're going to pay more taxes when you file this year. We also need to end waivers and exemptions that allow federal agencies to skirt Buy America laws. From 2008 to 2016, federal agencies spent over $92 billion on federal contracts because of Buy America loopholes. That's $92 billion that should have been spent on American products made by workers and businesses in Michigan and across the country. And President Trump again issued an executive order to get a report on how things were going after the last executive order he did a year ago to issue reports hasn't even been released yet. So talk is cheap on this one. And American workers are waiting to see when that $92 billion is going to be invested in America. We can't have a strong American economy without investing in our workers, in our families, in our American businesses, and our communities. Actions speak louder than words, and frankly, people in Michigan are waiting.
Okay, questions? Yes.
You and the president have already been trading barbs this morning ahead of the speech tonight. Given this level of discourse, do the president's calls for unity tonight stand a chance?
Well, the president hasn't been acting on unity for 2 years, up and down the line. He's always criticizing, dividing, and so if he calls for unity tonight, we'll have to say, let's see what happens tomorrow and the day after and the day after. Because in the past, he's called for unity and he's forgotten about it by the next morning.
Mr. Leader, Bernie Sanders has come under some criticism for delivering another State of the Union response, potentially competing with Stacey Abrams. Do you have any problem with Bernie Sanders?
Look, Stacey Abrams is going to do a great job. And she is just an amazing person with an amazing story and deeply held and strong beliefs. And I'm glad that President Trump is going to be the warm-up act for Stacey Abrams. Javier Becerra will do a very good job doing our Hispanic address, and then every other member is free to do whatever they want.
Leader Schumer, what about, despite the majority leader's intercessions on the conference committee and praying for Senator Durbin and so on?
We prayed for all the conferees, not just Senator Durbin.
Okay, that would be fair. Are you concerned that there might be a product here, that the president goes back and forth about whether he signs or not, even if the conferees...
Well, I've said over and over again, every time we leave it up to the conferees, Democrat and Republican, House and Senate, we've been able to come up with a good agreement. It's when the president interferes that there's a problem. So my advice to the president, you don't want to shut down the government. If you don't want to have to declare a national emergency, which I am opposed to and I don't think will happen, stay out of it. Let the Senate and House work their way, and we can succeed. Taylor.
On that front, Senator McConnell just said a few minutes ago that it's his preference to let the conferees reach a deal as opposed to insisting on a deal that Trump would indicate he would sign. How does that affect that?
Well, we'll wait and see, but as I said a minute ago, if the president stays out of it, it makes the chances of us getting a deal far, far more likely. Last question. There's a great concern that some of the major positions in this government are not filled or fulfilled by actings who don't have the same authority. And it's an example, one of many, of the incompetence, the chaos in this administration, which we haven't seen in 100 years. Thank you, everybody.
Expected to call for passage of USMCA. Is that something Democrats will support?